I'm Lewis. This is Orpheus Omega. We're here with Overdrive Music Magazine to talk about all things Orpheus and potentially all things stupid.
Most likely.
Guys, you've got a show coming up with Psycroptic. Obviously it's going to be huge, but could you please describe what we can expect in terms of natural disasters, acts of war and or curries?
Oh, the last one's got me.
This is a Kaz question for sure.
Chicken vindaloo, but they've spiked it.
With? Metal.
It's gonna hurt, and then the next day you realise it hurt you more than you thought it did.
Ooh. So it has fingers in it. Wait.
Too much.
So yeah, for a while we haven't played a show in quite some time, but over the Legions, last time we played a show. So we've been at it for a little bit, doing a whole bunch of things behind the scenes, and really working on some upcoming things that we're not allowed to talk about just yet. But some of those things are going to be creeping into the shows that we have coming up with Psycroptic.
Yeah.
Anyone else want to chime in?
Yeah. We are going to be playing a couple of new songs actually during this tour. I think we're alternating a couple, if I'm not mistaken. So depending on what night people are there on, they'll
there's
actually
two
get a
new
slightly
songs that
different
will be
set list.
alternating.
If you come to all the shows, you might actually hear the whole album.
Unlike
I haven't learnt it yet. But basically, when we did the Legions of Steel show in June, that was obviously a throwback. We played the entire EP, the first EP, played a song from each album after that as well, I think.
Correct.
This time around, we're basically bringing back some songs we haven't played in quite a while. And some that we really only played like once or twice live in general. We've been practicing, what is it, 22 songs at the moment? As far as
something like that.
Yeah. So we're basically just cherry picking a whole bunch of awesome stuff for this tour at the moment because, when you're playing in Psycroptic, you got to bring your A+ game, otherwise don't show up.
And that's only just to compete with Joe.
you just don't even try, really.
So
It takes the five of us to get halfway.
By our powers combined, we are still substandard.
we're bringing back.
You also mentioned the last show you played, the So It Begins show at Legions of Steel. Kaz particularly, how was it playing with Sasha up on stage?
Intimidating. I mean, what?
Honestly, a little bit messy because we realised while during rehearsals she doesn't have in-ear monitoring. So we actually had to have, we use all in-ear monitoring on stage, so there's nothing out of our sounds come back on stage. So we had to set up a huge monitor, very loud for her because she was back on stage, blasting hers. So the entire time I'm playing, I'm just hearing Sasha.
I have a question.
So half the set I'm just like, oh shit, well, wait, no, she plays that, I play this.
Why didn't you just move to another side of the stage?
I did half the set.
Just seems like a way around it.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was great fun. It was a lot of fun because she plays a much bigger, easier to play lower octaves and stuff keyboard. So we used and brought back a lot of the big chordal sections. Had a lot of nice big piano and string sounds. It was fun fleshing out the keyboard sounds.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was actually really cool having both of you guys on stage.
Yeah.
It was nice.
There's big band vibes.
Yeah. Next time we're bringing a saxophone.
New album has been made mention of. So what can fans who know your previous albums like Resolution and Partum Vita Mortem expect by comparison with the previous works?
Here's the playbook that those albums operate by, right?
That was hopefully a very expensive prop.
Well, like the album.
That crunch you heard was real.
Yes, look, this album, we definitely took a lot of influence from Partum Vita Mortem, and especially a lot of how we approach choruses and how we approach song structure. And we moved along with that. I'd say a lot of it was moving forward while trying to tighten up what we've had before.
Yeah. I think once we got to PVM, because of the concept of the album, and it wasn't a bad thing, we actually had fun writing that way, we were obviously locked into some structure because of literally the way the concept was meant to go across it. So some songs were written a specific way that maybe don't represent what we're doing as we move forward, but were perfect for the album. But I think playing songs like Karma, Beacons, Rebel, stuff like that live really gave, and touring a lot more off that album than the previous ones, really just solidified what we wanted out of our sound. And obviously working on the new album, we just didn't go into it thinking we need to write an album a certain way. We just started writing, and I think it's the first time since the EP that we pretty much learnt the whole album as a band as we wrote it. I don't think we've done that since the EP. And there was just a lot of just iterations of every song, and we just kept going through stuff because it was
We had time.
this is real. Yeah, we had the time, and it was just like, this is really good, but is it amazingly good? And if we're not, it was just that thing of if we're not stoked on our own music and like proper stoked, then we just didn't let it through. And like there was a lot of battles at Bandprac and during the writing process. Like Kez and I were at each other a fair bit. We nearly dropped some songs that luckily didn't because we sort of got them to where they needed to be. But I think we were a lot less precious about this album, and I think that is probably the biggest part of it. We didn't just sit there and go, we have to, obviously we started out as effectively like a Dark Tranquillity cover band. It's not a bad thing. Obviously we wore our influences on our sleeves right at the start because we just loved playing that stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas at this point in time, but I think this time around we actually just wrote an album that is our sound. And it's really good that after this entire process and how long it's gone on for, to listen back to the album finished, and like I'm still chuffed about it. I know like when we listen back to it, we're still like fans of our own music. And correct me if I'm wrong here, I don't know if I speak about everyone's behalf, but I feel like this is the first album from start to finish that we can listen back as fans of it and enjoy it instead of critiquing it as band members.
Yeah.
So I hope that translates to everyone else. I think it will. But as far as we're concerned, it's definitely our favourite album, and that I think says a lot about maybe the quality of the album, because we all universally feel that way.
Yeah, no, it's one thing to say, like, our new album is our best one because it's the big thing and we're trying to push it. That's not the case at all here. It's, individually, we'll kind of just sit back as we're listening to it and even message each other from time to time and be like, did we do that?
Yeah.
Shit.
But there's little bits that you forget and then you hear it again and you're just like, oh!
Yeah. A couple of particular parts. Every time I hear them, I'll hear something that someone has done and just think, I did not realize that Chris had it in him or Joa had it in him, and I'm not surprised that Kez had that, but I wish you put that away. But
I think a really good point you made is, and like obviously we try to do it for every album, but honestly this album, and at least like from my perspective of watching everyone, was like we still tracked it all at my place. But I think everyone absolutely outdid themselves, like to the degree of me being absolutely in awe of some of the parts that people wrote. Like, and that's awesome to listen back to, is like you said, as individuals, and just hearing back other members in your band being able to do stuff that makes you go, wow. And I think everyone's done that on this album. Like, there's not a part in it that doesn't make me feel like it's the best any of us could have done in those sections.
There's that, and there's also the thing that we haven't touched on at all. For pretty much a whole month straight, like, every band loves going to the studio. We're going to the studio, we're going to record our song. In this case, it's, no, we're getting together to go to Chris's house, and the whole damn house is a studio.
Oh, dude, it was...
We had your room going, we had the back room going, we had...
there was usually 3 or 4 people staying at my house at a time.
And tracking at the same time.
At the same time.
We converted the entire house to a studio.
Yeah.
A lot of rice and chicken.
And me locking myself in my room to just like...
Sounds absolutely amazing, and I'm really looking forward to hearing it. But having access to all that studio space and time through Chris, does it make it sort of easier or harder to look at the music objectively than it would be otherwise?
For the most part, I think we went in there kind of already knowing what we were doing. So there was a lot, about a year and a half or so of us throwing notation at each other, throwing ideas in the jam room, to even just calling each other up, hey, can I try this? La, 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 or sending voice messages in our group chat. It was all interactive the whole time. So once we got there, it was just like, Nathan, how come your fingers are shit? How come you're playing like crap? You already know what you're doing. Why don't actually?
If you went into our group chats, we have a lot of Chris sending us vocals at like 2 a.m. in the bathroom.
Oh, dude, he like
so when we actually heard back the vocals, and we're like, oh, that echo wasn't part of it.
I think the one good thing was how intensely we treated it. We didn't drag our... Like, obviously it's been a while since BBM came out, but as far as the process of putting these songs together is concerned, we were pretty intense about it. And even the pre-pro section of the album before we actually went straight into tracking, it was just like non-stop. And I think that kept us on our toes. So we didn't get lazy about it just because we had access to my place. We set time aside and it was like, no, this is when it's getting done.
Yeah.
And that's I think that keeps you, and obviously with me working with bands as well, I think having that really strict time frame brings the best out of you, because there's no time to be wishy-washy with it. It's just, this is the time you have, you get the best you can in that time, and that is it. And I think that gives you the most intense outcome. At least that's how it seems.
You mentioned the time management aspect and making sure you're really sharp with that stuff in the studio, but Chris, particularly with all your production work, with Orpheus, with Eye of the Enemy, how do you actually manage your time?
I don't. I cry to him at 2 a.m. a lot of the time.
And that says something about time management itself. That's at 2 a.m. So
I was sitting there like,
I don't have time for a breakdown right now.
11:56. I will get the kettle on, and Chris in 3,
2, 1.
I'm surprised you haven't just started throwing the couches shit around, just being like, I've had enough of this.
Oh no, I do that. I realize it got expensive.
Oh.
No, honestly, I think like with anyone, right? When it comes, especially like a few of the other dudes in the band, obviously have like pretty intense life styles as well. It comes down to, for me, it's like support networks. Like whenever your time management, when you have so much stuff going on, like, I guess like for me, it's like obviously 2 bands, running my own business, and then all the bullshit in between. It really comes down to that the people you deal with on a day-to-day basis are on the same page. Obviously, like around the PVM time, I was having a really hard time with a lot of that stuff, and I sort of put it forward to the guys that I was not having a great time, and everyone else pretty much just like pulled their thumbs out a bit and helped make it way easier for me to actually do what I needed to do. And I think that applies for everyone. When you have so much intense stuff on it, it really needs to be pretty planned out and, I don't know, to a sort of like a metronome of like lifestyle, really. And then if things sort of fall out of sync with that, you kind of have to work out if it's worth it or not. So for me, it's just about keeping positive and making sure the things I am doing are always positive. So making sure like, things always can be crap at times, but like, Orpheus runs really well. Eye of the Enemy runs pretty well. No, I'm kidding. Runs really well. And then like work runs as best as I can make it. So it's that time management stuff is more about keeping the energy levels up and making sure it's stuff that's not sort of dragging you down. And I figure that applies to most
in your spare time, you practices playing Quap. It's pretty much the same thing.
Oh, that game is the best.
We did jointly play that the other day. Month.
I worked out a way to do it where instead of like hopping over things, once you get to the hurdles, right?
Yeah.
If you make his like back leg sort of cripple out a bit, you can actually smash through the hurdles. So he actually just kind of pushes them to the end. It takes you like 10 minutes longer, but you finish. It's great.
It's an Olympic sport I'd watch.
I figured out a way of doing it where it gets to minus 300.
Yeah, you can do that. It's bad. But yeah, that's my secret. There is no secret.
You mentioned bringing in that really positive element, which is something that you've been doing quite publicly with your life, Chris. Do you think that has also made its way into the new album, musically speaking?
Funnily enough, in a weird way, it's the opposite.
Yeah,
like, this album,
lyrically, this album's very emotionally intense.
And so Joao and I pretty much write all the lyrics for the songs. This time around, we actually had them finished pretty well in advance, so the rest of the guys sort of had their takes on stuff, which was really good because we were all kind of going through a lot of stuff between PVM and now, and it was just nice to get other people's overall emotional states and sort of be able to interact with that with the lyrics. Like I'm in a really great place, but for me lyrically this album is very introspective and is very dark. Not in the sense of like, I don't know, I find there's a lot of bands now that do that whole like, we can do it together, we've got this. Yeah, I fucking hate that because it neglects the whole process before that. Like, yes, things are always going to be fine and with enough help you'll be fine, but it kind of neglects the fact that it's okay to feel shit. Like, shit things happen and you kind of have to deal with that. So obviously between PVM and now, and like there's a lot of stuff that I've sort of had to deal with and go through, and that's just reflected lyrically in the album. The fact that I'm in such a good place now means I can reflect on that other stuff a lot better. So I kind of like didn't try to write anything on this album where it was like I need to tell this story or whatever. I just wrote what felt right with the context of each song. So it's actually a lot darker, and I mean even your lyrics, like Joel's definitely much more of a storyteller than I am, but lyrically it's quite dark because I think we both went through some similar stuff in...
There was some shit.
Yeah.
There's been some shit.
I'd say it's definitely, like for me anyway, I feel this is the strongest lyrics I've ever written, and I'd probably say the same for you, at least from how I feel with your lyrics.
Yeah.
But yeah, like everything's positive, it's just, I think you can get to a point where you're strong enough and positive enough that the dark things aren't so scary, like you can actually think about them and deal with them. And I think it's something that, you know, a lot of people always talk about the whole, like, again, like getting to that point of like things are better and whatnot, but it's like everyone just ignores the downside to it. It's like you can only talk about stuff when you're feeling better. It's like, that's crap. Like,
yeah, one of the strongest things a person can do is speak their mind, speak exactly what they're being honest.
yeah. And especially in the darkest like times, because that's the times when people just think like, oh, you don't talk about that. It's like, no, you should. Everyone has shit they go through. There's no one on this planet that hasn't gone through something shit. And it's just a lot of people tend to ignore that part. They don't say anything about that until it's over, and it's like a lot of this album is more about dealing with it at the time or being open about it at the time, because I think a lot of the problems come from ignoring stuff.
Yeah. It's all part of personal growth.
Yeah, it's all positive, just reflected in a dark.
Just touching on growth. A lot of the times when it comes to the darker side of life, you go through growing pains. Things hurt. It doesn't really. Speaking from my own personal experience, it doesn't mean that you just shut out. That's when things really start to fall apart and fall out of control.
Yeah.
You feel like you can really grab a hold of it and control it and whatever, but it's just sand slipping out your hands. A lot of the stuff that was going, from the lyrics that were sent through, from what we've all read, it's all about growth.
Yeah, that's actually probably the unintentional thesis of the album.
It's all about instead of gripping that sand and letting it fall through, it's just like, hey, I see you all, have some sand.
Yeah, pretty much.
Alright, screenshot, blurb, done.
Yeah.
That is a really powerful and positive thing to hear, especially from 5 guys, in Melbourne, we're all, sort of late 20s, early 30s, just to get that message out to guys like us who really struggle with that kind of thing.
The other side of the album is us singing about lattes and housing issues, so we had to have a bit of Melbourne going on.
God damn it.
Avocado Breakdown was on side B. So.
That song's about this one time the kids opened an avocado and the pip to fruit ratio was just
horrible.
No.
He got one slice of toast out of it. It was
Just a bad time, man. It was the darkest time he had that year. Like,
Life was hard.
Kez has accepted he's never going to afford a house, so he's like, fucking avocados.
So looking back to PVM, an album in 3 distinct acts. For each of you, do you particularly relate to one act of that album that really speaks to you, or is it more of a...
This is going to sound weird to say, I really like Death, but I like the chaoticness of it. There's a lot more just raw intensity. The fact that we did start off with Echoes, which is obviously a very personal song, and that just goes from that to heavier and heavier and heavier through the last section. That felt like, to me personally, the most concise and together section. That actually gave a lot more emotions, especially, I suppose, the backstory and how a lot of those songs were written and how it came about. A lot of them were written during really bad times. And for me personally as well, a lot of them were written during really dark times. And some of the main riffs and melodies I still remember as that moment there when life can feel at its absolute shit, it's the absolute lowest. That riff comes from there, and everything else around that grew from it, and this is the end product. Even the worst fucking moment can have this one awesome thing come from it. And I suppose personally, and the amount of chaos and heaviness that also we managed to emulate and all that, and the amount of melodies, there's a lot of cool melodies in that last section. Always been my favourite part of the album, the last 4 songs without it.
Does that mean when we start getting through our bullshit, we're going to start writing shit riffs?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
We're just going to start every song with a major chord.
No, everyone just has to remember that life is pain and you're allowed to feel it. So
Existence is pain!
No, I think, look, I guess that we don't want to be too happy, otherwise our music may suffer. No. I think depending on where you're sitting at with the writing process of things and what gets given to you as a starting point, that'll determine where it goes. And I mean, at the end of the day, there's a lot of stuff that comes complete already, but, generally it gets tweaked anyway. People go, I don't like that bit. Why does that repeat 6 times? Delete it, so... But as far as the actual question's concerned, I don't know, I personally kind of have to see it as a whole, because I kind of feel it's kind of my baby, in a way.
Yeah, Joel, to be fair, the entire concept and, everything to do with how PVM came out is because of Joel. Like he had the entire thing in his mind. 2 years before we
Yeah,
pretty much straight after Resolute.
we were already starting work on.
And that was thrashy.
Like obviously that was after some pretty hard times.
Yeah.
Joao jumped, as always. Joao jumped onto the how can I be productive about this end of it, and So everything kind of ran through the Joao filter for that one. So I think for you it'd be hard to have a section.
I can't really separate it. Like there's moments, obviously. Like you always have moments. Like with anything, like you can listen to an album from start to finish and go, I really like that song. I could do without that one or whatever. But for me, I kind of feel like you kind of need to listen to it from start to finish.
It's like giving birth to Siamese twins. You can't just cut them apart.
Well, this is like a three-headed one because it's 3 sections.
But yeah, I mean, for me, it has I kind of always sort of hold it together.
Well, you say it's the ogre from Monty Python's The Holy Grail?
Possibly.
You obviously don't know the story of the origin of love in Greek mythology.
We'll come back to that. This isn't the time or place for it right now. We're on time. We're on my time.
Do you have a section that you enjoy most?
I think I'm in the same boat as Joao, where it's like I just relate to the overall package. It's hard to pick for me. It's just like songs that we've picked from each section that we play live that we all love. It's like
that kind of
very
apply
hard
to each.
Yeah.
Because I was gonna say life for me because it's all about experiences, but then there are like really important parts of like for example, Karma Favors the Weak is very much a song about failure and just that consistent sort of thing, and that's kind of really important as well. So yeah, like I mean, there's maybe life is a little bit more something that I relate to as far as the I guess lyrics and vibes concerned. But I guess same thing that you can't really have any of those parts without the others. So like if someone was like you have to choose one section, that's the only chunk you get stuck with from PVM, couldn't do it.
All stories have a beginning, middle, and an end.
Yep.
Yeah.
So. And then the Scourging of the Shire gets written out of it.
Yeah. It's true.
I'm here for the nerd references. That's all I'm here for.
There'll be plenty more. PVM was another really powerful growth period. It seems like that's something that's consistent with your albums. Nathan, you came into the band during that period. Obviously, you've been around for quite a while now. But coming into Orpheus, were there any particular habits or quirks of the band that were interesting, weird, or just hard to get used to?
Not particularly, no.
That's only because you're weirder than us.
That's.
Oh, yeah. Like, you know.
So I came from when I joined Orpheus, I'd come pretty much straight from a gent band that had a punk rock ethos. So it was a lot of jumping on top of amps, jumping on people, riding people around, smashing instruments.
Doesn't sound like a band.
It's an orgy.
It sounds more like Cirque du Soleil.
So coming from that into a more controlled atmosphere was I was taken aback by it a little bit at first, but I quickly came to learn that everything had a place, everything had a reason and a purpose.
Except his.
Yeah, there's a reason.
Do I?
Yes. Every human has a butt.
Oh,
See what I did there?
I get it. Well played.
Yeah.
We were talking about touring. Obviously, you guys have played with some massive bands coming down from all over the world over the years as well, from At the Gates all the way through to Sirenia. Which have been the real dream come true shows for you guys?
Dark Tranquility. that was like for me that was the first like.
Hang on. Hands up who has a Dark Tranquility tattoo in this band. Hands up who has a Trivium tattoo in this band. Hands up who has a tattoo of a cheese grater.
Cheese Grater were the best band we supported, man.
Agreed. There's your answer.
I feel like we've knocked off a lot of bucket list bands as a band, or at least as far as the bands we would realistically be able to play with.
Insomnium in Shanghai.
Oh, dude, that was amazing. But like, from starting the band, obviously Joao and I started the band with similar influences in Flames, Dark Tranquility, At the Gates, and I think playing the Dark Tranquility tour was just pretty amazing. Just as I can't believe, and like the fact that we like get to be friends with those dudes, like it's being able to sort of talk to them on a personal level in day-to-day life now. It's like what? Like, so that was insane. That was like, I'm not gonna lie, I still like when I got to jump up on stage in Sydney and sing Terminus, like I'm not gonna lie, after that point it was like if I die I'm fine, like like you know. But that for me was, that and Trivium were the for me, just the most insane, amazing ones in that regard. Touring for us, obviously, we've just played with a lot of amazing bands. We've learned a lot from every single one of them. I know I'm kind of answering on everyone's behalf, but really, we've played with so many amazing bands. It has just been... And to be fair, I don't think there's any that we've played with that we haven't walked away from and been like, holy shit, they're like amazing human beings. Like, like we all ended up in tears at the end of the goddamn Insomnium tour. Like, we were saying goodbye to each other. It was like, and it was just, it was just those kinds of things that we've been able to play with all these bands. Continue having friendly relationships with them for the most part after those tours. So it's, I think we've achieved a lot of dream come trues with the bands we've played with. So for us, it's always an absolute, just an honour being able to share the stage with some of these bands. I guess in terms of like maybe like a point in time on tours that have sort of made a big have had a big influence on us. I think the Dark Tranquility was like the Dark Tranquility tour being like the first one we really did that sort of we learned a lot more from as well, just because of the way that tour was run.
We picked up a lot from the
Monomath as well.
Australian support.
Because that was our first real
support. And I learned a lot personally from that.
So there's crew as well. The crew are amazing.
And
we just learned a lot as how to run, how to be a part of a tour.
And I think that's the thing that people always forget is obviously they go, oh, you know, what was the band like? And you know, you see the band for you know that much time.
And if they're cool dudes and stuff, there's only so much like you can like. They were awesome. They were cool to deal with. It was a good tour, you know.
But the people you actually do sort of make really good relationships with are the crew. You know, your sound guys, your lighting guys, your guitar techs, your drum techs, depending on, you know, who travels with who. But some of the crew that we've dealt with in the past have just been amazing, like fonts of knowledge to tap into. And just some of the stuff you hear from them, you go, oh my god, I have to remember never to do that. You know what I mean?
I feel like when you talk to crew members and you get a compliment as a band from a crew member, that's almost more important than from anyone else, because those are the dudes that are like...
They've seen it all.
Do this, So, and they're the ones who always remember, oh, they were not douchebags, like, you know...
they had all their gear working.
Like, to be fair, the Trivium crew were probably the nicest people, or like just coolest dudes I've ever met. They were so helpful with us. Like, they didn't have to help us with anything. They went out of their way pretty much every night to make life easy for us.
Dude, we didn't need same with the DT boys.
Miss those guys.
And the Trivium crew share their pizzas with us.
It's true.
They did.
If you share food with someone, that's a bond.
For life.
But no, honestly, we've been just
very lucky.
So lucky to just tour with amazing bands. Obviously, huge influences on us, but just amazing bands. Like, and I pretty stoked that we're for where we are right now. We've managed to achieve stuff that I think we not so much didn't think we would. It's just still surprising to sit there and be like, look back at, like, on occasion, like when I'm feeling quite nostalgic, I look back at my like AAA passes and just be like, fuck, holy shit, that happened. And like that's a pretty amazing thing.
Favorite memories: Terminus, wrestling with Marcus Van Haller in a flower bed in China.
Getting kicked out by security in China.
It's all a big blur, man. Like,
mine actually is a blur, so...
I don't remember.
His favourite times are only because we remind him.
Here's his favourite time. I know what you guys are doing. I know what you're doing.
I'm trying to get you up from being passed out so we can go to the airport. I don't need you to do this for me. Matt?
I just think like having drinks and chatting with them after shows, it's like pretty awesome getting to like know them on a personal level and whatnot. It's like, they've all been the coolest dudes ever. It's like,
actually, you know, it's a really small thing, but one thing I absolutely loved, second time we went to Asia and China in particular, seeing people wearing our shirts from the previous tour.
That was cool.
That was unreal. I'm just like, there was someone in China who was coming seeing us again 3 years later wearing that same shirt.
There's two people who went from the Shanghai one and then met up with us in Shenzhen.
I know.
That was ridiculous.
We're just like, really? People? Okay. Yes.
You've seen us a few times. Here's a question.
Why are you in China?
Out of the times that you've seen us, is there been any particular show that stood out to you? And why?
The interviewer becomes the interviewee.
Interesting.
We're conducting this interview.
There's two that would immediately leap to mind. The first one is the Big Corner Hotel show where you guys played with Bellacore. Just because, I mean, that it was a co-headline, but it was so much your show, and it was just such an experience to be at a show where the crowd was there for you guys. It wasn't that it wasn't a big it wasn't a mini fest. It wasn't a support show. This was Orpheus a headline in the corner, and that is just rad. And it was just so much of being able to plumb the depths of PVM and to really just showcase what you guys were all about, and just celebrate your music. So that was obviously a standout show. The other one for me, which stands as one of the best shows I've just seen, just flat out, was the Sirenia show.
Okay.
That was a really good show, actually. Like, I mean, that was a very sort of whirlwind couple of days. It was us, Neo, Sirenia. That literally came together in like this show's like when we got approached for it. It was literally like.
Was that at the corner as well?
Yeah, first time we played the corner, isn't it?
I think so. I think it may have been.
Yeah.
That was a really cool show. And again, one of those bands we didn't expect. Like a few of us are like more casual fans of Sirenia, and like I've listened to them for a while, but like actually chatting to it, like they were wonderful people and such a good band. So it was just one of those like real unexpected shows. It just happened, and by the time we sort of finished those two shows, it was like, oh shit, like what, like that was really cool. Yeah, that was definitely like sort of like one of those sleeper kind of tour things that just kind of cropped up and was actually a really good time.
Yeah.
And
yeah, like I said, stands as one of my favourite shows that I've just ever been to. Like, it's such a great lineup of bands that I love.
Yeah.
I'm a huge Sirenia fan. Native Liver Scaris, of course, are amazing, and then to have you guys on there as well. It's just like, it's not a lineup I would have expected to see happen.
I don't think anyone expected that.
It's custom made for my weird tastes.
well, that was our sort of.
There's some booker going, I don't know who this man is, but I've been told Lewis. This will do.
Yeah, it was actually, that was a really good one. I really like gigs like that though, where the lineup is kind of, you look at it and go, really? But fuck, that's really cool. I love those lineups. I get more excited about a lineup when I just see a whole bunch of good bands than just the expected lineup. Because then you just go, look, let's be fair, a lot of people will just do that, oh, well, I've already seen such and such, and we'll rock up a little later. And it's like, I like when you have that lineup where you go, oh shit, if I don't go first, I miss out on that style that I don't get later in the night. That makes me want to go to a gig more as well. So I feel like that probably was one of those gigs for that as well, definitely.
Yeah. I think that was like our most mismatched, maybe genre-wise gig.
Yeah, for sure.
For a band like them.
But it worked really well.
It worked overall.
Yeah, a lot of people were pretty stoked about that tour. Like after the show and talking to people who were at the shows.
Those dudes in Sydney, there was like a whole group of dudes, I think it was like 8 or 9 of them, who literally came to see us and Neo. Because they like didn't think you guys were ever going to play a show together, came just to see you guys. And I was like, but Sirenia, and they're like, no, we came to see you guys. I'm like, okay, sure. So like, I guess some people do obviously thrive off that, which is cool. Like, I mean, that's what takes all sorts.
Yeah.
So, leaving aside sort of the best shows, and not necessarily thinking of the worst shows, but what is the weirdest show you've ever played? What's the one you walked away from and just went, what the hell just happened?
Shanghai, China, because I don't remember it. I literally have no memory of that day. I woke up on stage.
Pretty much.
It is to this day the
It's
weirdest
not even a joke.
experience of my life. I got severe alcohol poisoning and was in a trance
not
daze.
Administered to himself.
You didn't get it.
I was an
forced
an unwilling participant in my own insanity. And I don't remember 12 hours of that day. Like it's just gone.
There was literally a
hazy
point.
blur. And then I remember being backstage in Shanghai, warming up and going,
That day,
that day literally happened. You literally turned around and went, are we on soon? Like that was it. His body just went, dude, gig mode, and then he finally worked. Like
he went full Charlie Sheen.
Oh, it was amazing.
And like the worst part is, I kind of remember playing the gig, but I wasn't that untight. It wasn't the best.
You would hate it,
but it was ridiculous, and I don't. Yeah, that was one of the weirdest days of my life.
We actually sent.
In fairness, I probably should have gone to the hospital, but
to be
We
fair,
had a plane to catch.
we didn't have the budget for that.
It was like that episode of The Simpsons where like
Right,
Homer
right.
like drifts off into sleep and it's like all nice and peaceful, but in reality there's just like bits of fence hanging off the car.
Pretty much.
I don't know. I'm actually just trying to think. But
Brisbane, Lacuna Coil, puking into a garbage bin mid-set.
dude, no, but I was there.
Multiple times.
Literally, like Nathan was literally like basically just dying all day. Like you had food poisoning, yeah. And we were like, dude, don't play if you don't have to. Like sit back, still, whatever. Literally sat in a chair on stage and just kept puking
Was
on
it
and off
from the
stage.
pie
Like, it
face?
was
Is that-
amazing.
Yeah.
That was
Pie face
from
at
the
2 a.m.
night
or
before,
something, yeah.
because pie face at 2
It was-
a.m. in Sydney is not a good choice.
It was
2
constant
a.m. in
puking.
Sydney's not a good choice. You can't go anywhere.
Yeah.
But I don't know about any overall weird. Can you?
For me personally, I can't.
It's kind of on the worst. But
I guess you probably have to be on the Kez Nathan level of
What
special.
about
like,
hey, Shanghai? Not the show itself,
No, but that's what I'm saying. Like the show was
Yeah, but
fine.
the show was
but
fine.
after the show.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
Yeah, but even that-
we've had a lot of weird after show stuff. Like
that wasn't weird after show. That was just going out and
Yeah.
getting drunk. That's not weird. That's just
I've got some
being
weird
the
drunk.
Launceston show.
Go
was
on.
like-
Matt,
I think anytime we played fucking Richmond, what was it called? Richmond something club? What was
Central
it?
Club.
Yeah, is that the one?
The Central Club
Yeah.
in Richmond.
Yeah. Anytime we
Swan
played that, something would fucking explode. My cymbals would fall off the
Actually,
stage.
no, that's true. I almost went through the stage once because the
Yeah.
wooden boards
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah, it's
I think
that-
the Central Club is a weird gig at any time.
Yeah,
anyway.
yeah,
Like,
It's not particularly us. It's just the Central Club.
you don't walk away from the Central Club unscathed.
Gasoline Hotel.
I'm gonna go.
That wasn't weird. That was just weird. That wasn't weird. It was just odd.
Yeah.
Because it was like playing in a dude's bedroom.
Well,
Was that
everything
playing
was
No, you know what was
Upstairs.
weird? I found Toad upstairs.
Oh, that was horrible.
There you go.
That
Found
wasn't
it.
weird. That was horrible.
The Red
the
Room.
Red Room of
What was,
Doom.
what was weird is rocking up and expecting to play the main room and then being told, "Oh, you're upstairs now."
There's an upstairs.
Yeah. Wait, what do you mean? There's an upstairs?
Well,
there's an upstairs.
you've got a room that used to be like a lodging accommodation
Yeah.
at one point. So what we did is we cut a hole in the wall.
Yeah. And then shoved the band in there.
Yeah, it was. That was actually yes. That was weird.
That was weird. To
No.
be fair, they've apparently redone that.
You have a question for the band.
Hi, Matt. What's your question for your band?
Put your hand up if you've broken a string on stage. Live.
With Orpheus?
With Orpheus.
No.
Really? So it was just...
Wait, are you about to put your hand up? How have you done that?
I've broken a bass drum skin on...
DT.
A Dark Tranquility.
Yeah, Beijing was kind of weird.
I broke a string,
Yeah, but that was before we even
3
played.
notes.
Yeah, that's the
into
worst.
sound
You
check.
broke it in sound check.
Yeah,
3 notes. I'm just going. Bah, ba-da, bah.
You know what the weird part was of that? You not bringing back up strings.
I brought back up strings in the form of money and sent somebody to go get them.
yeah.
In the form of Kez's money.
Yes!
Yeah. No,
It's called trickle down economics.
it trickles down from kids. It does work.
Since when was I an oligarchy?
And that's why capitalism doesn't work.
Because of me?
Yes, pretty much.
Okay. I'll take the
That was-
economical
that-
crisis for that one.
That was weird. Yeah. That was.
Since we're on the topic of pointing fingers at Kez, so, this shirt.
Why am I Jar Jar Binks?
What did Kez do?
More importantly,
What didn't Kez do?
yeah, why wouldn't Kez be Jar Jar Binks?
You've obviously not spent enough time around kids.
I hate existence.
He's doing okay.
He is doing okay, but
He said
well,
he can play keyboard.
I think we
See
Whenever,
you.
sorry, let me rephrase. Whenever I come up with these ideas, I always try to like capture people in their specific light, right? Like, I mean,
You
I
fucked
didn't.
up with me.
I didn't really want to be a Jedi on that particular art, but I
Yeah,
just
you
said to Tristan, who does a lot of our art,
Yeah.
I just said, man, I just had this idea. I need you to make sure that the following happens. Gary, the Sound Walrus, needs to be Darth Vader. Matt needs to be C-3PO because he's a robot.
Yep.
And Kez needs to be Jar Jar Binks. I don't care what happens anywhere else. Those are my 3 stipulations. And Tristan, like the legend he is, did the thing. It's the same with the
And
Gary
Ghostbusters,
Ghostbusters.
I got to be Slimer.
He got to be Slimer.
Actually, no, it makes sense. Me on a shirt is exactly like me in real life. Grotesque and a characteristic villain.
Yeah.
No, you're just over the
comical.
top. So we need you to be the comic.
You want a shirt? It's
relief.
just like you in a Chinese airport.
He's comic relief. So I think that's sort of where I kind of just always the ideas always go. But I mean, like I've got some ideas for future things where he's less comic releasey. So
Do you?
I do. But that'll come in due course. But yeah, I think that's why we've sort of gone.
Kez
gone with
looks
that.
as comical as he does. Like, so like,
Yeah.
you know, like, that's,
Hi.
that's it.
Yeah.
If you,
So,
like, you can't look at anyone else in the band and just be like, you'd voice act a really odd cartoon character. Like, it's you. It's always you.
Well, I say.
Yeah, but yeah. So I think that's where the whole
Picking on goes.
that sort of went, and I felt bad making him Slimer for
You
the
didn't.
Kezbuster t-shirts. Just because I thought maybe it's someone else's turn, but
It worked out way too well. Sorry.
it just looks really good.
Yeah.
And I said,
Sorry, no, I remember because sorry, I remember this now because we were talking about it and we were asked like, oh, how's the shirt going? And you're like, oh yeah, blah blah, this and this. And Tristan and Kez was like, why am I Slimer? And then when Tristan sent through the coloured version, Kez goes, yeah, nah, fair.
so it just sort of works. Like I mean,
I'm just waiting for you to make a shirt on a character everyone hates more than Jar Jar, because I'm sure that will happen.
There are characters people hate more than Jar Jar. We just haven't had it on a shirt yet.
I'm waiting for the thing one where I am the thing.
Nah, I wouldn't give you that pleasure. It's the greatest movie of all time. We can't taint it with our faces.
You know what's great? If we did like a Beauty and the Beast shirt, it was like the candle.
Nah, he'd be
Nathan's obviously the Beast.
Yeah.
he's the hairiest.
Yeah.
Nah,
Obviously.
I'd make him Belle. Because he's got nice soft features.
Team Rhythm represent.
Wait, who's Gaston?
You're Gaston.
That makes you Gaston's friend.
No, I'm not Gaston's friend.
You are.
I'm the rose. Because I'm falling apart petal by petal.
So, Chris and Matt, obviously growing up together, what can you tell us about the real Chris and Matt and how this led to where we are today with the band?
You may begin. You were here on this earth first.
Yeah. Look,
They both shared their first bunk bed and their first love with each other.
What? The love of Emperor's New Groove.
That's true.
Like to be fair, when Matt and I were growing up, our parents split up when we were quite young overall. I mean, in that sort of family. So Matt and I were always really close when we were younger, and I don't know, nothing really changed. We have a good dynamic. It works. I forced him to play drums, and
Pretty much, yeah.
he's thankful for it now. So anytime we ever have an argument, I basically just turn around and go,
I created you.
yeah, I am your maker. I don't know. You're just the more like conservative, relaxed version of me. I'm very outward with my emotional responses to things. Matt very much won't say anything until he loses his shit. And if you've managed to upset Matt, you're wrong. That's it. Doesn't matter.
Actually,
I don't care who
use
you
that
are.
in the gauge breaking.
Yeah. If you've done something to upset Matt, then it doesn't matter what you think you have or haven't done. You are wrong. That's it. That's because Matt is basically just like a blank canvas any other time than he's probably the most docile member of the band.
Yeah.
I'd like to say the most mentally stable, but it's only because we don't know what goes on behind there. Like there might be bodies in the backyard. We don't know. But I don't know.
They'd be perfectly kept.
Yeah.
We've actually been pretty lucky.
Been good the whole time.
Pretty close, bro.
Yeah. No physical punch-ons the last few years, I would say.
Since that time I threw your shoe in the bin.
Yeah.
Why did you throw your shoe?
That was really weird. Yeah. It's a long
I was
story.
there.
I was there. It was odd. It was public.
That was probably the last brotherly argument we've had that hasn't been related to band stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very strange.
Go team.
Which is good.
Yeah.
Boom. But yeah, pretty much the story was he forced me to play drums because he needed someone to jam with at home.
Yep.
Like in high school.
Because you didn't have any friends.
Chris or me?
Porque no los dos.
Yeah, I think both. So that happened, and we had another band prior to this. That was like a thrash power metal band. Never officially stopped that band, but it's like
it's on an indefinite hiatus.
Yeah. So that happened. I was like 12, 13 at the time, and that's pretty much been it ever since. I'd say I was sort of interested in either bass or drums, like rhythm section.
You made the right choice.
Yeah, it worked out. He got someone to jam with. Kicked the last drummer out of the previous band.
So what about best mates?
Chairs were thrown. Yeah, he's still good mates with us now.
I didn't throw the chair, just for clarity.
Then our music influences just got like heavier and heavier as years went on.
I'd say it's funny
And we
because
met this guy and he showed me out the gates and that was
To be fair, I interestingly enough, you're more extreme than I am in like your musical taste because you listen to like obviously like really I'll say like poppy stuff as well. And then you listen to like way more death metal than I do too. So you kind of don't really straddle that middle ground that I do. I'm more of like the just stream along dude and you're the
I hate the in-betweens.
Yeah.
Like, this extreme or that extreme.
Yeah.
It's not that bad of a show. What are you on?
You're black and white, he's grey.
Yeah.
Sure.
There you go. I'll take it.
Hypothetical to a situation.
Shoot.
You're out on the road, there's been a fuck up with the hotels, you're stuck with 2 doubles and a single. Who's billeting together and who gets the territory?
Question. Well, before I need a question. Are the doubles in separate rooms?
No, they're not.
Oh. Joao and I are spooning.
Yeah.
Nathan can stay. Kez and Matt have to go outside because they snore.
What?
Oh wait, no, sorry, Nathan and Matt stole.
Yeah.
I almost
So
got
they
away
have
with
the
it.
single-
It wasn't for your filthy logic.
Kes takes the single bed. I mean, even Joel and I would spoon in the single bed and he can have the
Yeah.
double. But basically, Nathan and Matt
Really?
cannot be in the same room with us. That's it.
They're
That's how
loud.
that goes.
They're
And
loud.
they accept it. They know.
That's how it's always been.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We actually have a pretty concise like how we tour setup. Generally, we put Nathan, Matt in a room together. Chris gets stuck with Joel because Joel's a dark, lonely person who can't deal with anyone else
It
in
needs
the
to be
world. And me and Gary will generally share because I'm annoying, but Gary doesn't hate me too much.
Yeah.
Well, about that.
Not too much.
And he's
Yeah, no, we've got that.
We've
We've got that
signed the
thing down.
contract with
Like,
him, and yeah.
it was like very early on that we realised we couldn't sleep in a room with Matt because he snores like a fucking train.
He doesn't
I'm
snore, it's
sure I
his
do.
breathing sound. It's just his very loud
It's my
breather.
asthma.
It's,
It
yeah, he
is.
just has a very, it's weird.
Must be a basis thing as well because it was like Milky's
Yeah.
snoring was ridiculous. So then when Nathan joined, it was like, oh, nothing's changed.
Yeah.
Go with Matt.
Yeah.
But honestly, that's the same setup we've had since 2012 when
Yeah.
it comes to any
Tours.
touring stuff. Like that's it. That's just how it has to be.
And I'm generally not allowed to share a bed with people.
Yep, because he spoons people in his sleep. I'm
I-
receiving it of that way too many times.
Or if
Yeah.
there's no hotel room, we just find the closest McDonald's.
24-hour Maccas, they just hang in there. And then basically just buy an apple pie every hour that we need to be there because then they can't kick us out because we're actually paying customers.
Yep.
That's,
Yeah.
that's literally how we roll.
We learned that the hard way. We got kicked out of a Macca's.
Adelaide, pricks.
Yeah.
Because some of us fell asleep.
Yeah, to be fair. But yeah, no, we to be fair,
We had the
tour,
itis.
we tour pretty rough, so all that sort of stuff, we just make do where we can. If we're all stuck in the same room, we've done it before, but like Joel and I will chuck fucking
Earplugs in.
earplugs in and stuff. Just like you got to do it. But yeah, otherwise that's the setup. Yep.
So carrying on this hypothetical tour, you're in the van. Maybe it's the next day. Who absolutely must not get in charge of the aux cable?
Kes?
Yes.
Ooh, okay.
But to be fair, there was pause. It just all eventuated to you. Like we all kind of took a second. It wasn't just you. It was mostly you though.
We can deal with Nathan's like run the jewels.
Yeah, but Nathan will chuck some like he'll chuck some like new metal stuff, and we'll just be like, I remember being 12, like so you'll get there. Whereas Kes will chuck on stuff you remember. I don't remember the 60s. You're like, this is not a time.
You just don't get jealous.
There's a time and place.
We get it. We just don't like it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I listen to a lot of weird music.
Yeah, we don't like Kes to take control of the aux cable.
Ever.
Basically, nobody touches the aux cable except for Joel. It's whoever's driving.
Which means it's
true.
Joel.
It's Joel.
Joel's a driving machine. It's weird.
He is.
He literally is a driving machine.
He's done Adelaide up and back, and I mean not as in after a night and staying over the next day. We've like driven to Adelaide, played a gig, and then driven back, and he's done pretty much almost the entire drive. I've just chimed in to just like let him sleep.
It's horrible for your shoulders.
But I get why
back.
you do it because when
Your
you're
back
driving,
dies.
you're in like the most comfortable seat because no one's gonna get angry with you if you like move the seat back. It's like he's got to drive, he's got to be comfy, so you actually get the best seat in the car if you're driving.
Basically, Joel likes exploiting privilege.
Absolutely.
I think if all else fails, he could just be a truckie.
Yeah.
He's just last.
Nah,
Too many years,
No,
man.
is it an Uber driver? It's happening, isn't it?
Too many years, like, what's going on here?
Yeah, but check your app because you too might be picked up by Joel.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'll just be driving around picking people up. So what do you like? Hey? Yeah. No. I need to get that banter down though.
Oh yeah, the dude I had the other night.
No, it's easy. You just need to learn how to respond to this. Been busy tonight? What time do you get off? Those are the two questions every time.
Why are you asking me out? Already on it.
One star.
What you do, you put a piece of paper saying, I'm going to assume you don't want to talk to me. But if you say hello, we will chat.
Yeah.
That way, the person, if they feel
They don't feel awkward, yeah.
it's their problem.
That's
They
a
can
good
just
point.
walk into the side and go, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
So Uber drivers usually have to tell me to shut up, so.
We do the same thing.
Yeah.
Not
Uber drivers
surprised.
they keep saying to me, can you please close the door? We're on a freeway.
Is
No,
anyone else doing
don't
this
throw
with
that out there.
Has anyone taken over the Uber's AUX cord?
I did
No.
once, only because the dude in the car was saying how he's like, he was like, I used to listen to System of a Down and this and that. So
Right.
like one of those dabbled in metal things, and I was
Like,
just like,
here's my band.
man, nah. I just started chucking on a whole bunch of like more like I'm on a Marth and stuff like that, just melodic-ish stuff. And the dude lost it. He was like so stoked. It's the only time ever.
I steal the aux cable at work all the time.
I'm sure that could
go
go
down.
It's pretty good. Like, nobody there listens to black metal or any of that kind of shit. So when I'm playing at full ball, it achieves two things. People stay away from my section, and it gets rid of the birds in the warehouse because they think there's like a predatory. And like they just
It's like a scarecrow.
Yeah.
A musical scarecrow.
The Shan also doubles as a bird device.
Yeah. It's good. I like that.
This tour, let's say you're touring with Nail of Scaris, and you get stuck somewhere between cities.
Yeah.
And as we know, Zen is a vampire and requires sacrifice.
An offering, yeah.
So, who out of the band makes
Yes.
the most nutritious?
He's
the
vegan.
most nutritious.
It's a trick
offering
question.
and
He's
why?
vegan.
Is he?
The vegan vampire doesn't get to eat any of us.
Oh yeah, that's right.
He'd probably be eating the fucking like healthy food that we tend to like buy when we go on tour. So he'd probably find one of our salads and just like. Otherwise, I'd be willing to sacrifice Kez, only because he's so juicy. Look at him.
It's juicy. It's got good meat on it. We've already teed this up.
We have worked.
Him, then him.
Yeah.
We survive, obviously. You know,
Of course.
It's to make a link for us so we can continue the band in their honor after.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
I'm pretty thick. They can just keep.
That's nice.
Yeah.
In memory of their corpses.
I mean, everyone does that though. Like, there's no group
What,
of
order the death of their friends?
No, but there's no group of friends or bands who haven't sat there and gone, if we were in a like plane crash and
Yeah.
only we survived and we're on a mountain and it's snowing,
Yeah.
everyone's seen alive, right? Like who's eating who? And it's, you know, not necessarily, you know, the strongest person survives, but the wiliest person survives.
I can run pretty fast, so I just fucking leg it out.
Something tells me I'd catch
Yeah,
her.
with your broken toe.
I could catch her, I reckon. I'm pretty quick. I'm zippy.
Plus, you have bad cardio, so you get puffier.
Huh?
You get puffed out.
It's not about that though, it's about you.
Like the quap guy.
Get that fast twitch, slow
It's
twitch.
about catching humans for death. Okay, Giraffe.
For
See,
consumption.
Joao's clever. He'd let you run the clock out until you pass out, and then he'd just come and catch up. Like he'd make you assume he's chasing you. He's a clever dude. Like
I
that.
just give up straight away.
Kez would just put the leg out and go start. I don't need that one, and hopefully we get saved.
Well,
before-
actually, yeah, exactly. You could fashion tourniquets.
Yeah,
And
Kez comes out.
start like leg down, and then
You don't need to leg.
once we get to the arms, you know it's over.
You've gone through killing me a bit too much, haven't
No,
you?
I haven't.
Enough so that you can still play your instrument.
No, it's just what he's done is he's watched the first season of Dexter, and basically just copying the Ice Truck Killer.
Yep.
You just got to work out where to because you don't want him to
But
bleed
Kez,
out.
look at Kez's thighs. There's so much what you could work with. Like you've got to at least cut it
And
off.
I've
real
got
high
some
up.
good belts at home. Like,
Yeah. And we all wear
I'm
belts.
feeling
on tour.
mildly vulnerable.
it's fine. You're safe. We're not going into snow anytime soon.
Note, do not tour Scandinavia.
I think you should get the right of response here, Kez. As a guitar player, what do you say to the haters and why they're wrong?
They're right.
No, he didn't say keyboard. He said guitar.
Oh, then they're very right. It's an awful, uncomfortable instrument. It's just easier than carrying around a stand. Like, there's the honest answer. As cool as it is, I'd much rather play a proper keyboard. But stands don't have cases. Stands are heavy. Stands are annoying. to bring
Keyboards are
around.
heavy.
Yeah,
Keyboards are hard to
keyboards
take
are heavy.
around.
Keyboards suck. They are really unwieldy. You need to bring like 2 things with you. They weigh 20.
And let's be fair,
kilos.
Kez, would you ever go back to being stuck on the side of stage?
I also hate being backstage.
See? So there you go.
No, it's
The
a
guitar
terrible
is a
instrument to
necessity.
play. It's a lot of fun to play at the same time as being very uncomfortable, and it makes touring so much easier.
Yeah. It's lighter than a guitar.
Yeah.
It's I mean,
completely
this-
wireless.
And the other good thing for you is even when you're not plugging into your module, you can go straight to the PA and have no issues. Like it is just that much
It's
easier
convenient,
to set
it's light, it's easy. It's completely
up.
wireless.
And it's so much fun to watch. The
I mean,
amount of
yeah,
people that are just like, oh, he's in this and this band, and they've got a guitarist. Like, where's it? Like the fucking guitar thing that you play like a keyboard. It's so good.
Yeah, there are some people who say the opposite that tracks, but you know, if you don't like it, look to the right of the stage.
Yeah. There's so much to look at.
You'll see Team ESP, builders of quality guitars.
You gotta stop doing that.
Guys, that's everything I had prepared. Was there anything else that you wanted to have a chat about?
We talk too much.